Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 148 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to start building our crystal production setup. Enjoy! So now we need to drive down here with the crawler and pick up some items and figure out where we want it to go. This is a much longer drive with this vehicle, even with the rocket fuel. Let's see, what do we want to build first? Well, the crystal seeds require dust. The grindstones require dust, so it probably makes sense to do those first, since they'll be where the crystal dust train is. But since the grindstones are so much larger, let's start with that setup. So it's basically all of that, and then all of that. And then the third thing I guess we can grab is the seeds. And then, hey, I guess we can grab the crystallizers. Could grab more, but I've just got the 4 temporary blueprints. That's enough for me. Probably have to come back here for something anyway. So, looking good. We're down to the last warehouse of oil. 600 barrels left. So we'll actually have to hook the system back up in a second here. Let's see, the bus is going, but it's a little overloaded on silver. I think I want to do an extra warehouse holding excess silver, just to keep the most efficient production methods running. And it's similar to the idea of aluminum, where we will use it eventually. It's just silver basically goes into like circuits and stuff, and we're just not making very many of them right now. Like, we're not automating them for anything, we're just using them for our own construction, so we end up not using very much silver. So it's building up, even though we're not making it very fast. So I kind of just want to plop this in here. So we'll pull off just a little bit of silver, just to allow the most efficient methods to go. Probably won't matter for very long, because it looks like we're about to be maxed out on nickel again. Not much we can do about that. Nickel I'm much less confident about using, because we've already got so much of it, not only here, but on the old bus as well. But it's nice to know it looks like all the gem processing is working. The train came back and it's getting filled up to about halfway again, so that's doing pretty good. Everything else seems pretty smooth. We're even building up an excess of nitric acid products now. Pretty good. There goes all the oil. So now as byproducts we just have that ton of residuals and then lots of salt. But we gotta hook this up, otherwise we'll run out of mineral oil. Oh, we could probably let this run out first. And then when it does, rehook up this mineral oil, and it looks like we filled up on nutrient pulp, so even though we're using it for other purposes, it's back. And we're pumping up our oil production with it. That's as good as you can expect, I'm fine with that. We tried to use as much of it as possible. Alright, that should be the setups. We don't need to bring any rails with us because we got that all taken care of, but we probably should bring some road surfaces for the drones. I'm not sure exactly how much. Probably not a ton. So we'll just bring some extras here. Let's get back up there. And how is that oil doing? 15K. So it's still got a ways to work through. Okay. We have a couple of choices of machines, but doing the one making the seeds might make sense to put as close as possible to the road, since it uses a lot of items delivered by drones. So how big would it be? Okay, so it will fit in here without blocking that patch. That's always nice. But we need to clear some trees. Okay, we got a clear spot. Let's see what we can do with this thing. And it looks like they're coming from the wrong side. Of course they are. But we can flip it so they're coming from the right side. No need to match stuff super close. So we'll do this. We'll need to start getting some requests in here, so we'll be able to see this in action. And we'll disconnect it just so it doesn't start running the second the drones get here. So cellulose paste. Let's put like 5 drones in there. And then this is the alien bacteria. Put 5 drones in there. Looks like the drones aren't on the network yet here for the cellulose paste. Guess because I wasn't sure exactly where I would put that. But since that's over there, I don't want to run a belt all the way down there, so let's just do a drone since we have nice drone roads here. And let's put like, let's say 2,000 of these in here. So when this gets hooked up, you should see what this is like. See, what kind of output does this machine have anyway? So basically a stack inserter. Or 2 reds doing this. But let's see how this works. As long as this last machine is pretty much always green. I guess it doesn't even need to be always green, but it's probably going to be the limiting factor. Or maybe it's these two. As long as one of these machines is always green, then then it's probably fairly well balanced, since this is very much like a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio here. But these things are going to take a very long time to heat up. But it seems to be good. Injecting fluids into here. Ah, this one isn't set correctly. It's set to the same setting as over here. So we definitely want that to be correct. Or it's sulfuric wastewater. There we go, because it should be on. We don't want any more than 1 drone's worth in any of these. Seems to be working. We're actually building it up pretty quickly. There's not much to it, really. We need the cellulose paste, but not a lot of materials actually go into it. Okay, so the fuel truck is probably coming down here to power all of those. That's why they're not on yet. And finally, we need the crystal dust on this side. Let's actually send it from underneath, because there's nothing really that's going to need crystal dust up here. But it probably will need to keep going on the bottom end here. So something like this. Probably should leave a little bit more space. And what's our factory's production of actual crystal dust? Do we want this to be red? Maybe. You never know. So there's the train. There were some biter orbs here that got picked up on the belts. Hey, field truck. Took a while, but it got here. Feels like it goes faster when you're hitching a ride. It really does. Okay, picking up the cellulose paste, which we already have 5 drones worth. How is the lubricant? Okay, we're holding out. I guess we're not filling up on lubricant anymore. The train station is full, pretty much. Okay, and then there goes the bacterias. All the way down here. That's going to be a long while. Well, in the meantime, we can continue the build here. The next thing after these seeds is the crystallizers, which, oh, I don't know, down here seems pretty good. We do want to space it out a little bit, because remember that this setup, it's kind of off-center, but it needs to be fairly wide. And it's about twice as wide as this setup. So we kind of need to be careful about where it goes. So we probably want to, like, yeah, put it somewhere over here. There's a mud truck going back. So clearly that system's working properly. Yep, it's just at 10K, so it's starting to eject mud out. So we'll want to build this somewhere down here. Oh, there's some water there. Where is it? There. But we'll want to build this somewhere around here. We're going to have room to expand. But it's not in the way of that patch. Oh, that ought to work fine. And I think some of the bacteria just made it. So we basically should have everything we need to see if these seeds work. Let's see, probably should have this belt as close as possible to the right here, so there's less belt overlap. Okay, let's make some petri dishes. Let's see, if I recall, this is pretty close to a full belt, or it is a full belt, so having 2 inserters on the end there should help. Let's see, but these dishes are making it in okay. Otherwise, it seems green. Okay. Let's put the paste in. Seems a little slow, like it's backing up pretty quickly. We need 15 dishes a second, which means this has to be red. And then the output, probably need to be 2 inserters here to make sure it's filled up. So I think that's what we're looking for there. Okay, the next step, adding bacteria. Seems pretty close to full. And let's get this setup completed. Put some belts on it. Something like this. And we'll keep the belt low so it's not going over that patch in case we want to put some miners on it later. We got somewhere for the seeds to go. So now we add the dust, and it must be dust. To make this, it can't be powder, so this is the only source of it. So we can just hook it up with no logic or anything. Seems mostly green. It's taking a little while for the resources to make it down. Is this an exact 15 per second? Yes. But it'll probably clear out once it's equalized. And now all the seeds are making it in there. Meanwhile, let's check this whole setup. Pretty much everything should be green. Although I think with the dishes we might have too many. Yes, it's not a clean number. We needed 33. We actually have 40. So that's like 1 line too many. Well, that could be fixed. I'd rather have the correct number of machines than everything be square. And this is still technically too many machines. But now it's only a couple too many. And we need about 20 machines here. And we've got that. Seems to be running pretty good. I think this will eventually clear up. But that's running pretty good. A nice solid belt of seeds. And they're about to back up. So now we can turn these into these splinters. As long as we just connect all these pipes. And the fluid is above. Do we have an output line? We might want to use this one because of the way the logic is set. I think we weren't sure if this logic would work. Because this tank does get a little low. I mean, it seems like it's working. It's not clogged. We have a nice supply of fish. We haven't run out, although I do want to go up there and look at these settings for the fish. Because one thing is that when this system is running, there is a ton of fish on the belts. In limbo, as they're waiting to get back to the warehouse here. And I set it to 1,000, but it actually has, or it had more than 1,000. So you see now the level's going down. Well, I suppose it will be It'll fix itself on its own, because if anytime the level gets below 1,000, it's injecting more fish. So as long as it doesn't get to 0, eventually it will have the exact number of fish necessary. So I suppose we don't need to worry about it too much. Let's see, I kind of want to put that there, but this is in the way. Because this is a large quantity, kind of want to have a pump going into and out of a tank here, just to make sure, because I think we have close to 1,000 or 750. That's quite a bit of fluid. Let's see, I'll leave that one disconnected for now, so we can let this fill up. And it already kind of has a pump on the far side, so this should work okay. By just running this down. So what kind of flow rates are we getting? Okay, pretty good. That's one way you can check to see if your piping system is good, is just put an empty tank down there and look at the pumping speed. So we've got more than 750 on that, so it should be okay. And as this level gets lower, more and more of these are going to run. I wonder if having additional buffer tanks around here would help, but I don't know. As long as the resources are making it down, there's probably nothing to worry about. Let's hook up and make some crystals. And there they go. It's a pretty quick process. The fluid is trying to max out. And it just about will. But there's the raw splinters. I don't think we need any kind of storage tank for any of that. Everything's chugging along as necessary. Probably want to have more than one drone for condensates here, because that's a long way for one to go. Everything seems to be running pretty nicely. And hydrogen seems pretty high. 3.3k. Is that just have one drone on it as well? Yep, definitely needs more than that. Alright, we've got to continue here. In order to process these, we're going to need to make grindstones, which is going to require a bunch of carbide. And the question is, where do we want to put all this, and will it fit? Because this process itself is kind of long. In that sense, I kind of wish this was spaced out a little farther away. But we are going to need space on each side of it, so could probably just put this right here and then have the belts move as required. Although they are going to cover up those patches a little bit. That's probably okay. Jivolite. I mean, there's jivolite and coal everywhere. We can't always avoid covering up patches. So this carbide setup needs to kind of slot in here a little bit. Probably should try to line it up with this other set of machines. Like right here, and give it some healthy amount of space. And plop it in there. Another thing we can do is just kind of put this facing the other direction, so it doesn't take up too much space. Like this direction here. But I kind of want to wait to place it because it's going to use powder to make these. And powder is going to come from the other crystal setup. So the exact position might depend on exactly where we place everything. Well, these belts are pointed the wrong direction. So let's get them flipped around. So we need to get the silicon powder and the carbon in here. Might as well get these belts out. So once the robots are ready, we can check this out. Takes a long time for resources to get through here. Let's put some near inserters on here, on the ends. Well, I mean, resources made it through, so it's about the best you can expect without having this hooked up to anything. Let's go back to base, get those other machines, and finish this up. Let's increase the minimum drone count for drones going up north to 5. So that means that this needs to be set to 2000. We want 5 drones in there. Same here. Let's put more in acid gas. Which, by the way, acid gas seems to be working fine. There's no buildups of anything. Okay, we got some more setups to grab. Crystal splinter processing here. I'll just grab this one. And then the last one. And finally, the harmonic one. Alright, looking good. Let's get back up there. We've got the output here, which would hook up with this thing. We're going to want some spaces for belts and whatnot. So something like that. Then we take the other one and try our best to slice it in here. I guess at the maximum distance of the underground pipe, which is how we did the other side. So plop it right in here. Then we need to get it fully connected. So this bottom belt are all of the used grinding wheels. And this top one are the new wheels. Let's get the input for the crystals, which should be right here. So it's blue. See, that one doesn't have any filters. That should be red. That one should be green. That outputs the dust. It combines with this dust output. Then it combines with this dust output, becomes 2 belts, and then they combine up there again. Let's get the lubricant hooked up. And we got to get this signal sent back for the purposes of these combinators. We're also going to need to make a ton of milling drums and then fill it up as appropriate. Okay, we got to get the lubricant here. Positioning of that pipe might matter depending on where we want to put the grinding wheel processing center. Kind of want to put it like right in here. Maybe a little bit down. So we'll try that. Additionally, we have these 2 setups, making the slurry from the dust, which I guess could happen like right in here. So we're going to need 20 liquefiers here, making the crystal slurry. And actually, we could use long-handed for this, because we'll have red belts on each side, so they'll be able to reach across. So we need 20 of these. I know perhaps they will fit just fine here, where pretty much all of the available dust will go in there. Although this setup should have priority of dust. So let's see here. We can have an output there, and have these only go on if the crystal powder is greater than like 200. So this one always gets priority. However, we also have this ore powderizer here to signify that we need to supply powder here with a crusher if it is unavailable otherwise. So I'm going to put that right there to, again, remind me. But this setup has 2 sources of crystal slurry. One is from powder, but the other is from dust. And dust is the much smaller of the 2, but for powder we need a hydro plant here. It's applying the purified water. And can we use this for an offshore pump? We can. Okay. Well, not much is going to occur here. Let's see, actually, facing this way might help a little bit. So we can like plop it right there. Say purify water. That can go there. Then we have an output of saline water. It's very little saline water, but it is an output nonetheless that we definitely could potentially use if we get it in the right spot. So like right here. And then that'll create an output. We'll get it hooked up in a second. But the other process we need to do is doing it with crystal dust and sulfuric acid. And we need simply 2 liquefiers for that. So we need to get the dust in here. It looks like we already got some up there. So making crystal slurry. Just 2 of them. And a belt can come by. Because this is going to be a high-speed thing, so we want stack inserters for each. We'll see how that works as far as the belts, but we need to have a tank in here. Kind of want to try to line this up a little bit. Maybe like that, which means... oh, just pick this up, move it a couple spaces up, like right there. Where this side always runs, because we definitely want to use up that powder. But if powder can't keep up, is when we start using dust. And we'll say, if this gets below 10,000, crystal slurry below 10,000, fire up, then a pump on the other side, pressurize the system. This output goes down, although it's kind of annoying because the position of this belt. So I kind of want to move the thing 1 space over. So we'll definitely need to get some acid in here as well. But now we need to be able to supply extra powder if we need it. So we can have this belt keep coming down. So might as well make this red because this is exactly 15 per second. So we hook that in here. Have some logic to say, well, if that one has to be more than 200 to operate, let's increase this to 1,000 so we have some flexibility here. So that has to be over 1,000 to operate, and I would say if this is below 200, then that turns on to keep it topped off. So we got a stack inserter on here going in, and we'll want to handle these drums as well for this setup. But it'll be pretty simple, where it'll just have some input. Powering all of that. Then this dust can come in from up here. Nice and lined up. Because we need to jumpstart this system. So we got to get all this started here. Let's see this work. So that's basically putting crystal slurry in the pipes. And getting them in all these machines. Looks like there's some missing pipes though. Now we need to get the lubricant in here. So let's try to put it up here. Oh, it almost lines up without having anything in the way. That gets hooked in there, but since there's no drums, nothing happens yet. But we need to seed this. This might take a while. So I kind of just want to run them all here. Wouldn't be the worst idea to put things like milling drums and electrodes on the bus when we rebuild it. Because there are setups that do require quite a bit of these. And let's fill up with about 200. Okay, pretty good. Clear these out. Then set them back to the correct recipe, which is refurbishing existing milling drums. Take out any extras above 200. And repeat the process. And we'll run this last setup a little bit longer, so we have some extra milling drums to put in the other machine. That's pretty good. Clear these out. And switch the recipe. Wrong one. There we go. There are some extra drums. Then when you put them in here, this process should start up. So right there. Whoops. Need some filter inserters for that one. So that is used milling drum. And those are crystal powders. There we go. So that's running. Sending powder down here. We do need to reverse this. We'll leave that unhooked for now. We'll test it later. But that just runs up to 200. It doesn't keep filling this up because this is the less efficient way of making slurry. That the better way is with these machines, so we just want to let them run. And they have. And topped everything off. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we're going to put everything together and start making crystals. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.